you all to think about the last time you were in a grocery store. What did you buy? Can you imagine if your favorite fruits or vegetables weren't available for purchase anymore? This is exactly an issue that California farmers in the Central Valley are trying to avoid. In recent years, California has faced a devastating drought. The lack of rainfall has put a huge strain on farmers and others in the ag community. Growing up in the Central Valley, I knew firsthand how serious this issue was. One way that farmers found a way to avoid having to cut back on produce sales was that they found a new way of irrigation, specifically drip irrigation. But before I get into exactly what drip irrigation is, I want to first define what a drought is and how exactly it affects ag. On the screen, I have a graph that shows the annual rainfall from January to December through this recent century. The blue line is a trend that shows the average rainfall. The green, which has its peaks and valleys, shows how much rainfall that specific year received. As you can see, rainfall from year to year fluctuates. Some years we get more rain, and some years we get less. And this is completely normal. The United States Geological Survey released a report in 2016 titled The California Drought, and this is how they define a drought. In the years that we receive less rain, we can attribute that to a few months that don't really give out as much rain as it should. These are called dry periods, and dry periods are completely normal. On the other hand, drought is defined as a dry period so severe that it affects water usage, meaning we might not have enough water for ag or for human consumption. This is an issue because so many California farmers rely heavily on groundwater. In fact, a report in 2015 by Heather Cooley, titled Impacts of California's Ongoing Drought, stated that California relies on 40% of groundwater for its farms. The report also found that the counties Kern, Tulare, and Fresno, along with 7 other counties, those counties being right around where I live, heavily rely on groundwater. In fact, 90% of the water they use for ag is groundwater. So why exactly is groundwater an issue? Groundwater is an issue because when it rains or when snow melts, this water will fill rivers, lakes, and ponds. This water will then seep into the ground, where farmers can then build wells and pump this water out for use. The issue here is that the demand for food never goes away. So farmers are still needing to produce the same amount of crops they do any other year, regardless of how much rain we receive. The aquifers are beginning to be pumped dry because we're pumping out more water than what's putting back in from the annual rainfall. One solution that farmers have found to this issue was changing their way of irrigation. In California, there are 3 different types of main irrigation. We have 1, flood irrigation. Flood irrigation is when we have small mounds where crops are planted on top of the mounds. In between each mounds, water is flooded through. This water is then allowed to seep through the ground to get to the roots of the crop so that they can continue to grow. Next, we have sprinkler irrigation. Sprinkler irrigation is similar to what your sprinklers are like in your front lawn. They can either come up from the ground tall above the crops to water them, or they can come from tube systems that come over the crops that have wheels that can go through the furrows. And lastly, we have drip irrigation. Tubes are ran across where the crops are planted with small holes in the tubes that drip out a constant but slow rate of water. Over time, this is just enough water for the crops to continue to grow. In California, or at least in the Central Valley, surface irrigation is very uncommon. The crops we grow don't exactly need this amount of water, and even if they did, there'd be no way for us to provide this water to those crops. Sprinkler irrigation is becoming less and less common, and this is why. Many farmers have switched to drip irrigation because of its efficiency. A recent study from Penn State in 2016 titled Drip Irrigation for Vegetable Production found that drip irrigation requires less than half of the volume of water than sprinkler irrigation. This is huge for the Central Valley because it means we can produce the same amount of food every single year with less than half of the water that's needed for sprinkler irrigation. Farmers are learning to make do with what they can. In fact, In 2015, the Congressional Research Center released a report titled California's Ag Production and Irrigated Water Usage, found that by 2010, drip irrigation increased to 43% in California. With the drought, farmers have been forced to find more and new efficient ways to continue to grow food. People are always going to buy food, this is a given. But the fact that we don't have enough water to provide means that we need to find new ways to make do with what we can. So the next time you're munching on grapes or almonds, I want you all to stop and think about how important every drop of water really is. Thank you.